Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Reverend G. I am Reverend Grenetta Mason, aka Reverend G, and I'm here with you every Monday night at 8 p.m. on WEMS Radio Live. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, and you can also find us on the WEMS Radio app. Each week, I have special guests from different walks of life with different perspectives, and we come together and we talk about life, we talk about love, and we also talk about spirituality. And we talk about spirituality from a practical point of view. How does it support you in your everyday life? And with so much going on, every day we wake up to something just so different going on in the world, and we just have these mixed feelings about just life right now for me. And I turn to all of my spiritual practices to support me through day by day. And it's really about staying present in the moment and not going so much into the future about what could happen then, but staying real present to this moment and using the practices that support me in finding joy, having peace, and clarity. And as you know, my whole thing is to support you in finding joy and living your best life with grace and ease. You can find me every day on Facebook and Instagram with inspirational messages to support you through your day. I'm on Facebook as Reverend Grenetta Mason and on Instagram as Rev Grenetta. Tonight I have like a very special guest and I'm excited because I have Dana Shulman on my show. Dana was my improv teacher and I just grew so fond of her work and who she is. So I feel so excited to have her on my show. When I asked Dana, what title you want to use, she said she wanted to be Miles' mom of Miles, because she has a new kid. So I'm excited to hear about that and everything that Dana is doing and creating in this world. Dana. Hey,
That
hey.
was the nicest intro ever.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. So I think right now, I know you just had a baby, so let's talk about being Miles' mom, right? Because it's like right in your face, right?
I mean, yeah, it's in my face. I mean, he's in that. Okay, do you see where my finger is? He's in that room right now trying to go to sleep.
Right.
And he was just screaming as we were trying to set up lights here. And yeah, he's everywhere. Yeah. No, he's a delightful human being, and I've never known any greater joy. You have a new baby too.
I have a new grandbaby. Yes, right. And he's a delightful human being too, right? With like,
I love that your grandbaby and my baby were born at the same time. It feels like they're going to be, and they live pretty close to each other too.
exactly
They could
same
potentially
good.
go to school together.
Yeah,
And this is like how
yeah,
friends happen, and I love it.
exactly. And I was like reaching out to you. Oh, I have a grandbaby. You have a son, right? And it's changed my life in a different way that it has changed your life, right?
Yeah.
Bringing and having a baby during this whole COVID period. How have you been able to navigate? I mean, and all new to you, whether it was COVID or not, right? What
No,
are some of the ways you've navigated all of this?
he is 100% our first and only baby, and we're cool with that. And there won't be another baby, and that's okay. So yeah, we're navigating it and doing it all like one time, and it's pretty great. So we don't know any other life other than this. Actually, I in some ways I find this all to be easier because I feel like if we were in with a new baby and our life changed that dramatically overnight, that would be a really hard adjustment. And I feel like it was some ways easier because we had just had 2 years of like a horrifically weird life shift, and we had gotten my partner and I had gotten more used to like staying in and enjoying our time inside and really like enjoying the space that we're in, which like was really it felt reminiscent when you were talking about like during your intro about like being in the moment. Like, I feel like that was something that we really found during the quarantine, the deep quarantine period was like, well, I guess we're in this apartment now. How do we make it as nice as possible? How do we like enjoy living here as much as possible? And then now there's another person in here. I don't know where I was going with that, but I guess, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's all very magical once you start like, okay, I'm not going to have as much regret about like the running I didn't accomplish outside today because we had to stay inside, right? During that period of time. And I'm not going to worry so much about like looking for jobs to better my state in whatever right now. I'm going to live in this moment right now. This is where we are. And we're going to live through this quarantine period. And so I feel like that became really rich. And now we're doing it with the baby. So I feel like the transition was a lot easier than if we had gone from our normal gallivanting all over town lifestyle to
Right.
yeah. No, it's great. We're digging
Yeah.
it.
When I looked up your bio, I saw that you have been in the theater, actor, creator for like a really long time. Walk us through some of the different uh, things you've done, right,
Yeah.
throughout this period.
Like in my life, I
Yeah,
yeah,
in your life, in
yeah.
your life. Yeah, how about in your life, right?
Okay. So
How
like
about sharing with us from your perspective?
when I was in like first grade, I believe I was cast as the sheep in the cactus Christmas tree. And I said, I had one line. I thought it was a pretty great line. I had like the moral of the story. It was about this like group that like they did of animals and they lived in the desert and they didn't have a Christmas tree. And the sheep was the one at the end who got to say, sometimes you want things and you look very far, but you find the real treasure right in your backyard. Yeah, and it was supposed to rhyme, and that doesn't really rhyme, but it's close enough. But that was, I guess, that was my intro to like actually being on stage. But I've probably been a performer my whole life, like making up plays, going back and forth in front of the bathroom, like entertaining whoever was in the bathroom. I know that sounds strange, but there was a little hallway outside of our bathroom door. So my sister would be in the bathroom and I'd do little like, hey, I'm walking by the bathroom. And now we do that for our baby. But performing that my whole life. Yeah, I guess I did that. And I did a lot of musical theater in high school and college, middle school. And then I came to New York City to be an actor, even though I said I wouldn't do that. I majored in psychology in college, and I was like, "Oh God, now I have to go to the theater." And I came and I started doing some touring children's theater, and then I was auditioning, and then I had a brief stint in some movies and TV, and then I came back from a TV project and said, "I think I really want to do comedy because I really enjoyed." Like I was on this reality show, and we like did all those like interviews, like the off the cuff, like when they're just like interviewing you, not when you're interacting with people. And that was what I really enjoyed was the like riffing and like being funny and silly and making people laugh. And I came back from that and said, I'm gonna be serious now and do comedy. And I started doing stand up, and that was really hard without any sort of improv background to go with it. And then I was auditioning for a commercial, and a friend who was the casting director said, I'm never going to call you in again unless you do improv. So I started doing improv, and I've never looked back.
Never look back. The queen of improv, right?
Right, I love improv.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
now you teach improv, which is great too, right? An excellent way of always being in it. And you guys perform, right, all the time, right? What I like about improv is like being in the moment and being present to what's happening in the moment. The whole thing about being present.
It was exactly what you were talking about, spirituality, and what you were talking about, improv and parenting, all those things. It all is, and like finding just like your radical like kind of presence, like to really listening and responding is all just about being in the moment.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely about being in the moment. So I also know that you've run a lot of marathons. You're from Boston, and you've been talk about that experience because I feel like a person that can run all those marathons right out to you, right?
Yeah, no, I never was an athlete or a runner. I was always kind of out of shape, And but we enjoyed. My family went and cheered for the Boston Marathon every year.
Mhm.
And then through a series of lots of things and cheering for the Hoyts, who are these wonderful people, a dad and son team who he pushes his son in a wheelchair. And they were pretty much the first people to do that publicly and openly. And I started running for their charity team. I started running Boston. My first marathon was in Boston when the bombs went off. So that was
Oh, wow.
pretty much how my marathoning journey
Started. Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
my actual running. And then I ran Boston and New York for a long time, and then the pandemic hit, and I was training for London, my first international marathon, and then I just kind of stopped running Rev G.
Just stop running.
I just kind of stopped. I was like angry and a little burnt out, and then the world happened, and then I was like, well, we can't go outside. It's funny. I feel like I said these words already during this interview. You're like, well, you can't go for a run because we can't go outside. I used that for an excuse for a lot longer than it was true. And
Oh, okay. So now you have a different feeling about running, or is it sort of like, I think like after you accomplished it and get to a certain level, where it's like, yeah, I've done that, or is there no more motivations for? Where are you in this whole
no, I
running?
think I just I ran 18 marathons back to back, and like,
Whoa,
yeah,
that's a lot.
that was like such a humble brag there. I was like, oh hey, like look deep into the camera. I ran 18 marathons. Like, for the radio audience, I'm flipping my hair and looking fabulous. But I think I just like I got into a loop of like I have to do this in this manner and every time, and I got really burnt out, and it became I wasn't present and in the moment. It was more of just like Dana the machine doing it, and she broke during the pandemic.
Mm.
And then
Wow. Yeah, we talk about the pandemic in many, many ways, but it supported you in being able to break, sit in that break, then figure out what's next, and be okay. Imagine if you had just broken in the middle of it all, right?
no, and
It might-
still feel like I'm in the broken period of it, and I've done a lot of really awesome stuff. Like I set up a online improv network during the pandemic, and I made a really nice home and strengthened my relationship, and I got married and I had a baby, and all these wonderful things happened. It was just running took kind of a back seat, and now it's shifting back into focus right now, and it's a transitional period. So my feelings with running are conflicted right now, but I've been a running coach and running adjacent, and I MC for running events. So I'm still in the running world right now.
I know you said follow that fanny pack.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, right.
that used to be my most favorite hashtag. I think before I ran my first marathon, my friend Rachel wrote, "Follow that fanny pack," because I always have a fanny pack, and it stuck.
Yeah, I do. I think it takes a lot, to run marathons. And 18, yeah, you can brag about that.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, so how much more time do we have on this? I could just tell you about how I ran 18 marathons.
Yeah. Let's just talk about that, right?
Yeah.
So, another thing that fascinated me about you was this whole McDonald's wedding thing. How did you get? I mean, not McDonald's.
I know. I love it so much that you said. I was just so excited that you just said McDonald's wedding. I was like, who got married at a McDonald's? That sounds fabulous.
Wait, that would be great. Next,
I'm going to show you there's some
Dunkin.
signage from the event. No, my husband and I got married in a Dunkin' Donuts during the
Right. How did that come about? It was so beautiful.
Thank you. No, we were very actively trying to have a baby, and we've been together for at that point 9 years. And baby was focused, and marriage was not focused, so we just never ended up getting married. And one day during the pandemic, and I think it was in January when we were all starting to get vaccinated. I had just got my first vaccine. We saw an Instagram post on Dunkin' Donuts that said, "Hey, do you want to get married in a Dunkin' Donuts?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I clicked it, and it said, "Do you live in New York State?" And I went, yeah. And I clicked it again. And it was like, we'll post an Instagram picture about why we should let you get married in a Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru in New York State. And I ran into the other room and I was like, my boyfriend at the time, Giancarlo, he was on the phone with his friends, and I was like, Giancarlo, we're gonna get married in a Dunkin' Donuts. And then I went to teach a class online, which very easily could have been your class, Rev. But I went to teach a class, and by the time I got out of class, like Giancarlo had already made a post entering the contest, and then I prepared and I made my post, and then everyone got really excited on the internet, and it was a fun time because like while pandemic stuff was shifting, then we were all still very much at home, and a lot of people had a lot of fun like cheering for us. Like it was like this great sense of you found senses of community wherever you could, and it was
Yeah.
there was some wonderful aspects. People can knock social media all you want, but the fact that we all remained connected through Zoom and StreamYard and Teams and Google Meets, and I'm just
Have we ever met in person? I
I
don't
know I
think
don't think we have, but, it, but it's like the
but
fact
I know you, right? It's like it's always been
that's true.
this.
Like those classes were so important to me. Like to see my class, like it felt. I was like, when I first started teaching online improv classes, I was like, no way it's gonna have the feel of like one of my level one classes where everyone like hugs each other and they love each other. By the end of it, but it did. They did feel like that,
Yeah.
and it's been really fun meeting some of those folks in person.
When you see people in
But yeah.
person, yeah.
That was it. People got excited. Our post got attention, and then we got married in a Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru 9 days later.
Yeah, it was so cute. I followed it. A lot of people, we were like, wow, let's see this, right?
And it
Very,
was
very good.
it was Miles, our baby, knew. He was like, I don't want to come out until my parents are married.
Yeah.
I don't know
Nice.
why Miles cares about such an antiquated institution, but Miles wanted to make sure he had dad's health insurance. So
Right. You wanted all of it, right?
like
That's pretty cool.
I think 2 months after we got married, we officially had our Miles Brewing.
Yeah.
So that's right.
The
Miles is my
other
baby.
thing,
Did I
the
say?
other thing I want you to talk about is how you got all these people their vaccines. And my story is that
Nice.
I was in a play called Animal Wisdom. And at the time they were going to make a movie in DC. And as a part of the choir, I was invited to go to DC to do the movie. But I had to get a vaccine. And I just been following Dana so much, I hit her up. She's like, Rev G, I got you, right? And then I went to work and got me my vaccine and got me ready, right?
That's so
To
nice.
go to DC. Now it didn't happen because the mayor wouldn't let us come into the city because this is that middle of COVID, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so it shifted. And the way she put the movie together, it was very interesting without having us at the choir be a part of it. But she had to do what she could do. They were fighting and fighting. She wouldn't let more than 10 people in the theater, so it was a whole thing. But I know that Dana got me that vaccine, right? When it was hard to get.
Oh, that's nice. I honestly, it was such a weird period in my life, and I was very much like maybe hyper focused in the moment. Like I like there was something weird going on with me then. Like we were really having a hard time like making a baby at that point. Things were getting sad, and there was lots of disappointments and excitement and like thinking things were going to work out and not working out. And so I was kind of like just I think that it was January of 21 when the vaccine started coming out, like in December, like some healthcare people were getting it. And then on January like 9th or something like that, they said like people who work in schools or teachers, it said teachers and school employees or something the next day could be eligible. And I was like, I think that's me because I work in school systems. And I was like, but I don't know. But I felt like I don't know if I should get it because I don't know if I'm taking it from someone. But I like logged onto the computer And I was able to make an appointment for like the next day or the day after, like really easily. And I was like, huh. And it's because a lot of people didn't know that teachers were getting approved. It was like the very first thing that came out in New York about who was getting approved to go ahead and get their vaccine. And so I made that appointment, and then I felt like really like lucky that I had it and safer, and I wanted to like give back. And so like other groups were rolling out, I started getting really good at the different websites that like you had to like you basically had to play like computer games with like buttons and like hitting like control alt delete at the same time and like at the right times of days. It was like, but it was also like a massive high for me, like when I would get one of these appointments and I was like, like
got you one, right?
Or like when they would drop a bunch of appointments, and then I had like people helping me, and I would like text them and they would text people, and we would get people. I'd post things on Facebook and people get appointments, and it was like thrilling, but also like emotionally draining because every like wonderful story about I'm gonna go do a show, I need an appointment. People calling me like my relative has like late stage terminal illness and I need to get there to visit, and like nobody would just tell me I need my vaccine. Like people wanted to put their stuff on me, and I am a deep sponge of an empath, and like I was like taking it all in and getting really upset at the world and really couldn't understand why I was the one who was able to help these people, but like my name that started getting passed around, and I posted a lot on social media, and I think I made like 1,500 appointments.
And she's being modest. She was New Yorker of the week.
It was New York. That was the same week that I got. That was the same week I got engaged. We had like.
Yeah, I was like, look at Dana doing that. I mean, really supporting the community. That was beautiful, right? To just no matter how many you helped, which was a lot. The whole part of just being a contribution at that time and how you could contribute, and it probably supported you because you mentioned like the whole thing around making a baby. One of the things that people are now starting to talk about, where it wasn't, where it was so much talked about, right? About what it's like to go through having to maybe do an IVF and many different miscarriages, and women really now speaking up about the experiences of making a baby. What could you share with us about that from your experience?
I mean, it's amazing that you just said that. And even during that whole thing, I was like, oh, I'm really open about all that stuff. Like, and like you were talking, and I was still like, while you were just talking, I was going down the list, censoring, like, what do I want to say out loud? Like, what do I, and I think I'm really open, but no, I don't tell people everything. But also sometimes I do. I don't know. I don't know how much I've talked about publicly about this, but like we thought we were having a baby before we got married, and then that's when I started making the vaccine appointments, and then and so I was like making them on like a very like high of like, oh, I'm 43 years old and I'm finally having a baby, and I was like, and now I could give back to the world. And then that baby didn't work out, and we basically found out that baby wasn't going to work out right when we found out we were getting married, like simultaneously, like within 10 minutes of each other. And then later that night was basically when I found out I was New Yorker of the week. So it was a lot of stuff going on.
Wow.
It was a lot of stuff in one day. And I don't know if I've ever really shared that whole conglomeration of
it. Being able to process all three of those in just like the one day must have been a lot.
It was one day. It was one day. And we got wedding rings that day too. I mean, like there was crazy stuff going on. But yeah, and I remember we made that decision to like go get the wedding rings that day. We were like, well, we're getting married. We have to go get rings. And we were like, and because I decided I thought we should remember that day more as like a powerful day that we came together, as opposed to a day that like lots of shit failed, you know? But then I was still making those vaccine appointments very deep in this like sad, like, we had gotten married, everything was wonderful, and that was great, and that was really fun, and that was a fun distraction for a while. But then there was like a lot of like dealing with what happened, and I was still making vaccine appointments, so it was a very emotionally charged time for everyone. But it seems like work and doing stuff and like accomplishing, like trying to do as much as I can for other people was like the way that I was gonna heal
Yeah,
from
and
all
that's what
this.
I was gonna say. In that moment where you was doing your grieving and going through that,
Yeah.
you were helping so many people, right?
Yeah, that was I
Yeah.
couldn't help. There was nothing I could do for myself at that point. And so
Mhm.
it was much easier for me to I've noticed that at like a lot of periods of my life, especially like during marathoning. I several times have had the experience of like getting to like mile 25 of a marathon and
Mhm.
like feeling like want to crawl up in a ball and cry and never do it again, and everything in my body hurts. And then I'll
Mhm.
run into someone that I've coached um,
Mhm.
or been coaching like recently, or like someone I've had some sort of connection with their marathon journey, or someone who looks like they're struggling that I don't even know. This
Mhm.
pretty much happens during everything marathon. And if I switch into coach mode,
Mhm.
as opposed to solitary runner mode, if I switch into coach mode and I like start taking care of someone else, even if it's just like, hey, you're doing great, or like, oh my gosh, Mark, yeah, like
Right.
and then like and then nothing hurts in my body after that. It's like I don't even. I've had like things where I found someone like that and connect with them so much so that like the last mile, I don't even remember running it.
Mhm. Mhm.
But
That's good. That's interesting too, because what it takes me into is when I talk about spiritual practices, when I talk about what are the different things that support you in moments in your life, right? And I love that, because then we can flow right into what are some of your spiritual practices, and what are the things that you do that support you through whatever, you know?
yeah, no, and I'm not sure I would have been able to answer that if we hadn't had this previous conversation, like up until now. Because now I'm really realizing right now that like my spiritual, the way I emotionally take care of myself is by doing stuff for other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Because most of the time when I do stuff for myself, I just have this enormous feeling of like kind of like selfish blah blah, blah, right? So
Mhm.
like even when I was running for charity, like for like I was running like for like I switched my running almost immediately into coaching, so it was like
Mhm.
more about running, and like I switched my performing into teaching, like because I'm just
A service, always like in like a
yeah,
service role,
I
right? Being a contribution. That is interesting to think how.
I feel like I just had a mental break there. Thank you for
You
where do
just
I send
realized something, right?
the copay for this therapy, Rev? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That is interesting. Tina, what about your spiritual life? Did you grow up in the church, and then talk about how you grew up, maybe, and where you are today with your spirituality?
Totally. Yeah, no, I grew up in a Jewish family.
Oh,
Uh,
a Jewish family, right?
oh, a nice Jewish family, a nice, but like not super practicing my,
Mm.
and we didn't belong to a temple. And then I actually, oh my gosh, wow, we're gonna have a therapy breakthrough here because I'm realizing there's a connection here too. I I have an older sister too, and we didn't belong to a temple. We belonged to like a Jewish family group. We did a lot of like we did the major holidays with like my grandma, and but then I was the one who realized that like all my Jewish friends were in these youth groups, and I was like we need to join this temple so that I can be with those folks in the youth groups, and
Mhm.
I want to do religious education. I like opted into religious education,
Mhm.
and I opted into being the first kid in my fam to have a bat mitzvah, and
Mhm.
we joined a temple for me, and I I had a Jewish wedding once, not the Dunkin' Donuts one, the one before that. Uh,
That's the one before that, right?
I did like optional Hebrew high school all the way through like
Wow.
mostly because like I was like very into the social scene. I went to Jewish overnight camp because that was my scene. I went to Israel the summer before my junior year, which is when everyone went.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
I like followed that path, and then like kind of life happened, and I feel like I fell out of sort of any like I still connect with Judaism, and I like still like hold a space for the holidays and the things that are going on in the calendar year in my heart, and in like we like Hanukkah candles, and I'll have a Seder at Passover. But other than that, I don't really we don't belong to a temple. So
Do you
formalize.
ever think about what you would teach Miles? How you
Yeah,
would, yeah,
it's like on my
because
list.
I know we have our own, the way we grew up, and then
Right.
what we've learned and who we've become, and all those things mixed in.
That's deep on my list of my to-do list of things to have deep thoughts about. Uh, so let's dredge that one up. I think my husband and I are even though he grew up in a sort of similar amorphous blob of a religious household. Like we both kind of made our own way in our religious beliefs now. But I feel like I think we'll teach Miles the way of, like, we definitely have talked a lot about teaching kindness
Mm-hmm.
as a way of life, which sounds like, as we've concluded in the rest of this chat, is my therapy and my way of life. I try for it, like acts of service.
Yeah.
And I think I imagine there will be some holiday celebrating and definitely the stories of the holidays. And I think it's more going to be like mommy's going to teach what it was like going to grandma's house or great grandma's house for Seder, and like what the family aspects of religion are. Because that's what's really important to me, is like how it connects with your traditions and your family. And I think so. Giancarlo has a lot of non-religious connected, like, feelings about Christmas and being with his family, and I feel like it's very similar in the fact that, like, what we love about religion is how it showed up in our families. So
He's Christian. He
yeah,
grew up Christian.
I think he is. I think he would answer this for himself. I'm not really sure exactly how he identifies, but he kind of identifies as like not religious.
It's so funny. That's great. I think a lot of people identify, and because I say I'm an interfaith, interspiritual minister, and religion, in a sense, kind of confuses it. But
Yeah.
I do the background that I got. You know what I'm saying? The Christian upbringing, and when I listen to you, I think about the basis of that is about love and
Yeah.
kindness and compassion, right? And so for me, it translates to, okay, we had Christianity, you had Judaism, the common aspects of that, pull that out, and how do we teach it to kids today in a way, because we tried to reject it, you embraced it, most of us rejected it because we didn't get it, and right, until later.
The common thing is love and connection between human beings, which is so strange that we can tie this back to my optional Hebrew high school education. And I have talked about this paper more than once, but we had to write a graduation paper for Hebrew high school. And for our SEAM class, it was called. And I wrote a paper about, and I could probably pull it up because I have everything. But I remember my main point in my graduation paper was that God, or the presence of God, is the connection between human beings. Yeah, and not just human beings and nature, the connection, but the interconnectedness between everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which makes a lot of sense, because that is also, not gonna lie here, Rev G, it's also, that is improv also.
Right, absolutely.
I'm not saying improv is a religion, but I'm not saying it's not.
Right, exactly.
And family is also, and love is also the same thing. It's all just like the relationship between me and this tree over here. I don't like, not like, or how nature and humanity all work together, and I don't know. It's all very beautiful.
Yeah, and it's interesting you said that, because when you said that, it brought to mind where I visited a shaman once who told me I was no better than the dog. And from that day on, right? And or no better than the tree, or no better, and from that point on, there was an interesting perspective around nature and everything that lives, right? Because we tend to want to be better because we're human and we don't necessarily get the connection between all of that. Trees, I used to say, oh, I don't like bugs. I grew up in the city, but it's a whole different perspective to connect to nature and how it impacts everything around.
Mm.
And it was this weekend, I was like, I was at Martha's Vineyard and I was like, oh no, there's woods all around. And the whole idea was to get me off the porch, right? Because I'm like,
Rev G, I
yeah.
feel like that's your I ran 18 marathons moments. I feel like you have to look at the camera and be like, this weekend I was at Martha's Vineyard. I feel like that is
And
the subtle brag there. No, it's really is. It's like when you, if you, and it's, I guess this is how the evolution of success has worked in my brain over life, is that like I used to think like, oh yeah, I want to be a famous actor, right? And that was success. But then you realize in that same way of I'm no better than that dog, or that I'm no more than the tree, right? Like it's not about fame or one person being better than the other. It's really just about actualizing yourself and being the best
Yeah.
wherever you are right now. So it's not about fame. If like I feel like honestly, some days, and I hate saying this because I want to be around for a really long time so I can take care of my baby, and so he doesn't have to deal with loss, and so I have my partner's back and all these things. So I'm not going anywhere. But like um some days I think I'm very happy with like the amount of good I've put into the world right now, and I haven't screwed up too much. So I feel like at this point I feel good about where I'm at, like, which is a really nice, comfortable thing. Like it was actually like I had forgotten about a bunch of those nice things. I forgot about the vaccines. And you start talking, and I was like, oh, I've done some
And
nice
you know what's
things.
interesting when you said that you don't necessarily want to talk about that because you're 43. Okay, so I'm
Oh,
67 and we get on the phone and it's not one day that we don't say you better live in this moment because you might not have the next day. It's not one day. And I was like, I always make these jokes about if this is what old people do, they get on the phone and they say, thank God we're still here, right?
yeah.
Every day it's like, thank God we made it another day. So it's interesting, and to acknowledge that at 43, 44 is really powerful. You don't
Yeah.
have to think that it's gonna like in your life, or you know what I mean, put any juju out there about you ready to go. But the idea that at this point you can say, I've made a contribution and I feel good about that,
Nice.
right?
Really nice thing that I don't give myself enough credit for. I sound very comfortable right now, but like then, ooh, my camera just did something weird. Um, but then like at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll be in the bathroom and I'll be like, I've done nothing, and my baby hates me. Um, oh god,
Yeah, and the probability that you have a longer life to go is there. And I say that because as 67, that little line is close, right? But it still doesn't matter because it doesn't. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? But it's still a close line.
I was thinking the other day about the summer I did. I did summer stock. I think it was the first time I ever did summer stock. It was probably like 1999. And I had a friend who was like one of the older girls in the apprentice company, the acting company, and I was friends with her, and she was so cool and fun and awesome. And I remember looking at her and being like, she's older, and she was 30.
She was 30.
And I still know her. And I was thinking the other day, and I was like sitting there and I was going like, God, she was so much older, and she was just 30. And then I was like, oh my gosh, she must still be 10 years older than me.
Yeah.
Age is so weird and stupid.
It is. It really is so weird. So we just embrace it, and yeah, and that was interesting to me. But yeah, embrace all that you've done. Sometimes we don't applaud ourselves enough. If
Yeah.
you don't remember also the contributions and the great things that you've done. I also talk about, what are we thinking about? What thoughts we keep? Thoughts are very important, and people, I'm like, there's a million of them going through. Which ones do we attach to, though? And I was talking to a friend, and she was saying, "Oh, I have so many thoughts," and I'm just like, I was like, well, if you're having the negative thoughts, right, you can't just kind of push them away. You have to replace them with something. Because, as they say, if you say, don't look at that tree, you're going to look right there, right? If they say, right? So, these thoughts, these negative thoughts, you have to really work with replacing them with something.
Yeah, no, I think for a lot of time for me, it's in my life. I remember the negative thoughts are, well, I don't know if I want to fix that um, or like oh man, like little stuff. I don't want that to get, I don't, oh, if it's therapy that's going to make me feel better and more stable now all of a sudden, or whatever it is, whatever the little fix is that I'm learning
Right.
about.
Right.
I don't know if I want to do it, because then I don't want to regret all the time that I could have done it, that I screwed up this
Oh,
time.
all the time you took to get to it, right?
Oh yeah. Or
Yeah.
like, oh man, or how about half the time that I sit around and I'm like, oh my God, if I had really applied myself when I first got to New York City, I would be a super famous actress right now. Regret.
Well, you know what comes to mind though, then is being enough. I had to get to a point where I said, I am enough. I do enough right now, right?
Rev G,
Miles is crying. Yeah,
can you
let's get
stay here for 1 second? Don't go anywhere.
the baby.
Oh no, it's not the bait. I mean, he'll come out if you want. But
Oh, it's oh, you already know.
used to
Well,
be
I thought
this used to be in the background of my Zoom. This is my improv philosophy, and
right.
it's you is enough.
You is enough. Oh, I said, you is enough, right?
The story is that during one of my first improv classes, I said, like, I just want you to get up on stage. Don't do that funny voice. Just be you. You is enough. You is the only thing that like no one else can do. And one of my students said, I think grammatically it's you are enough. And I was like, no, it's you is enough. Like, it's about you and all your flaws. And then I started saying it all the time. I teach a whole class called You Is Enough. And then one of my improv students made this for me. And
Oh, that's nice because it's how you say you.
but look at this. It's crooked. It's
Yeah.
not centered. There should be a color over, like there's no reason why there's no color over here. Like the pattern is weird. It doesn't make any sense. And I love it because I stare at it and I think about all its flaws.
Yeah.
And that's why I love that painting so much. Because
Mhm.
like it really is. It's just like you can't live in that regret stuff. And that's the thought that keeps going, that we talk about replacing. And
Yeah.
so that's what you replace it with. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can regret the last 2 years that I let myself get out of shape.
Mhm.
Or I can say, you is enough. You did all this other shit. Now get back out there and run if you want to run. Otherwise, stop sitting in the big pile of shit called regret.
Yes, absolutely. Right. And just accept what is it. What is. You're still the beautiful you, right? And then you get to choose.
If I spent the last 2 years not getting out of shape and running 18 more marathons, cool, that's cool. But or when I get back in shape and I get back out there and I run a marathon and then I scoop up my baby and I cross the finish line with him, that's going to be because it was a better part of the journey. And like you use enough, and like why should I just like regret that I maybe put running down for a little bit?
Yeah.
Wow. Are these conversations always therapy?
These conversations are always so different.
Oh, good.
It's like each one, and I've been doing these conversations for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Every Monday. and they're all so different. And also, sometimes I do say, "Oh, why am I doing this?" But after shows like this, and after being with people, it's always like, "Yeah, I know why I keep doing it." Right?
Also, what a silly thing that like we like human beings don't get on the phone and just chat more. So like if you had to make a show to make actual real conversations happen, go ahead, make a show because like this
Yeah,
is great. It's great to sit down. I mean, how often do I say, "Hey, baby's got to stay in the other room for an hour. Do you want to meet him? You want to see him?"
yeah. Let's meet. I see Miles all the time in the mini costumes and the mini ways.
I might be wrong because I might get in there and he might be napping, but you can
But
watch
let's see. Yeah, she always is posting
that.
Miles in different costumes, and he's always giggling and so funny. So she's putting all of that positive energy into him right now. But it's so cute. Oh, here he comes. He might be napping, but he's adorable.
He was
Uh-oh.
playing.
Hello. He is awake. Look at that. Yeah.
Hi,
Hi, little boy. He's
Rev
smiling.
G.
Hello. Hey, little one. How
I've,
are you?
I've never
Yeah,
loved anything in my whole life this much.
I know. It's so powerful. And I have a daughter. And so in the beginning, I used to say, "Oh, you're the most beautiful boy in the world." And she would look at me and like, "You're the most beautiful baby in the world," things like that, right? That I would say about him. But it was like, oh my God, sometimes she would feel like, what about me? But they're just so adorable and lovable.
Look
Oh,
at this
really?
head of hair.
I
I don't even know
know.
what to do with this, Rev G. I don't know what to do with this hair.
I know. It's interesting, right? Just like let it be, right? But now I don't know how old do they get their first haircut,
I have
right?
no idea. I think some people keep looking at me like, why hasn't she done it yet?
No, he's still a baby, baby. I will wait. I think one. Look at me, 1 year old.
Hey, Miles.
What I know. Hey, Miles.
Miles.
Hi, baby. Yeah,
Miles.
it's been great. And the last thing we didn't talk about was Murphy the cat. You have
Oh, yeah, they're here.
Murphy Burger.
That's Monster over there, the
Monster
gray cat.
and Murphy.
And Murphy's lurking around somewhere. He's the brown and white cat.
Mhm.
And Miles. And no, we did not intentionally name all of our children with M names. That was not intentional. It just sort of happened. But they are all the bestest of buddies and they get along really well. And they both have different relationships with the baby, but
Yeah.
they all definitely like look out for him. Cause like sometimes I'll put him down and you gotta let him cry it out a little and get snugly in his bed and he'll
Mhm.
sound upset and I'll walk away. And that whole time they'll be like right at the door, like looking at the crib. Very
It's
sweet.
cool. See, the connection between them is probably
Oh,
so cool.
look, and we're tying back in the connection between people and animals and nature.
Yeah, as we roll out, right? We talk
Done.
about
Rev G. But
yeah,
as I was saying, in a really amazing improv show, you always have to hit at the end, like whatever it was that you hit at the beginning that the audience has forgotten that you talked about, right?
mhm,
Um, so it like I feel like we have to say like it's all about like and that's why I love this show and you doing this show and being in your presence because you're very much exactly what you said in your intro of like living in this moment right now and like thinking about that and finding joy with grace and ease, right? Like that is what this conversation was about. That's what the show is about. That's what being the mother, being mom of Miles, being
I'm a
a
mind.
is
Yeah.
just like finding joy and stressing less about what you should do or what you should have done or
Mhm.
regret and just that's improv life religion, it's all the same stuff, running,
Yeah, yeah, we put it all
you say
together.
big marathoning.
Yeah. Very good. I'm excited that you were able to join me. And Maya, welcome. Look at that face. Such a beautiful picture of you two.
Thank you. I can't wait to meet your grandson.
Yeah, right. It's like I think we roll it into winter, but in the spring we can meet in the park up in Washington Heights, right?
Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you, Dana, for joining
Oh,
me, and enjoy that little bundle. And I'll definitely be. I'm looking for improv too, so
yeah.
I'm looking to go for that.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank you so much for having us. What an honor to get to chat with you. Thank
great.
you, Prophet Pete, too. You're all
All
lovely.
right, bye.
Always have a great day.
To Profit. Hello, and thank on Conversations with Reverend G. I'm here every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find us on the WEMS Radio app live, on Facebook Live, and on YouTube. Have a great week, and remember, live your best life throughout, no matter what's going on. Find that bit of joy and live with grace and ease. And you can find me every day on Facebook as Reverend Grenetta Mason, and on Instagram as Reverend Grenetta, with inspirational messages to support you throughout your day. I will see you again next week right here on Conversations with Reverend G. Hey, how much time was that? It was a little short, right?